Games now with Gerard Campbell at stuff.co.nz. Gerard, good morning to you.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you very much. And disturbing news this morning, disturbing news in the game world. Everyone is in uproar, arms in the air, fists shaking, that sort of thing. Apparently game developers have been writing their own reviews. Tell us about this.
Yes, look, I mean, I'm sure this isn't you. I'm sure this is, this sort of thing's happened before, but the latest one to hit the web it's to do with Metacritic, and we all know what Metacritic is. It's a sort of an aggregate site where they sort of, they take up aggregate scores for critic reviews, for whole sorts of multimedia, and then user reviews, and sort of, I guess, come up with sort of an average figure.
Kind of like Rotten Tomatoes for movies.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yep, so it's the same thing for games. And the latest one at the moment, this week, is GameSpot found this out, that apparently there were some very glowing reviews of Telltale Games' Jurassic Park, the game.
Yeah.
Very, very glowing. There was no critic reviews up yet, but there were very glowing user reviews. A couple of them were comparing it to sort of like a cross between LA Noire and it's a great game, and if you're a fan of this, then you're going to love it, and it's the best thing I've played since sliced bread almost.
The best game in the whole entire world.
Best game in the whole entire world. I mean, probably not quite that, but, very sort of comparing it to, if you, same sort of thing as LA Noire and Heavy Rain, all those sorts of things. And it transpired, after GameSpot UK did a little bit of investigating, that these actual user reviews came from Telltale Game employees.
Oh.
So they were trying to sort of boost up the ratings of the game.
And you reckon that this might be a common thing, that this does happen from time to time?
Oh, look, I'm sure it does. I'm sure that I'm sure I read somewhere that there was a developer of BioWare perhaps posted a positive review of Dragon Age 2. Something. So I'm sure it happens because, they've sort of got to, and if they can have your opinion, that's cool. But, I think that if you are going to do something like this, you need to say, I am an employee of XXX company. I worked on XXX. I think it's the most awesomest ever. But,
yeah.
At the end of the day, someone who's worked on a game is not going to say, oh, it's a piece of rubbish, and the AI's crap, and the enemies all look the same, are they? So it just sort of, I guess puts into question a wee bit the relevance of things like Metacritic.
Yeah, I mean, I know personally, not so much with games these days, but certainly with movies and even music, I am swayed by a bunch of reviews, and I like going to those sites like Metacritic that will collate all these things and put out a general score, and it gives me a general idea of before I go and purchase stuff. So, so this is quite concerning, I think, for consumers, right? That they need to be able to trust these services.
Yeah, well, you do, but I guess the thing about the internet, and it's probably an unfortunate thing about the internet, is that it's a fairly sort of open game, isn't it? So you can pretty much say anything you want. There's no sort of real checks and balances on, restrictions on who can say what, who can do what. So you're right. I think you have to take a lot of these things sort of at face value. I tell people, especially when it comes to reviews, because you can have one person who actually raves about a game and thinks it's a 10 out of 10, and another person plays the exact same game and thinks, oh, it's not so good, I'll give it an 8. So you're getting two sort of varying opinions. You've sort of got to weigh up, if you're going to use reviews as your basis for buying a game, you've sort of got to weigh up several opinions and then sort of base it on what you think. But I mean, look, I'm sure this has happened before, and it'll happen again, and it's just sort of a good indicator that you sort of just got to be a bit wary of sort of.
And you'd think that over time, the more honest reviews that go into these engines, that it should even out, and even if there are extremely positive ones, they'll be at the end of the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it's the same sort of thing as sort of the book reviews that come in on Amazon.com and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
That you have very glowing reviews to start with. Oh, brilliant, best of the year, best time seller, rah rah rah. And then, once people actually start playing it and start, you can sort of get more relevancy come through, then sort of it drops the scores down. And I think I can see that the average score of the game is about a 2.9 now out of 10. So it's sort of it's almost gone swing to the opposite, hasn't it? Because Because then things like this is that you get people who are opposed to that sort of thing, so they slap a 0 on it because, just because they want to make a stand because it's, well, if you come in and put a 10 on it because it's not a 10, I'm going to come in and put a 0 on it. So, yeah, just be wary of those sorts of things, I say.
Okay, on to another gaming controversy, Gerard. EA is being sued over Battlefield 1943 promise to PlayStation 3 owners.
Yes, I heard about this on Sunday. Someone mentioned to me on Sunday that I don't know the full story, but apparently EA, and you might be able to fill me in a bit more detail, apparently said before Battlefield 3 was released that they would include, I assume it's a downloadable copy of Battlefield 1943 with the PlayStation 3 version.
Yeah, they promised a copy with the PlayStation 3 version at a press conference quite a while ago. And then they didn't say, and then they said they couldn't deliver after Battlefield 3 came out. And so what some people are saying is that they might have actually purchased a PlayStation 3 console and the Battlefield 3 game, thinking that, that was the one thing that would push them over the line to go with, say, a PlayStation 3 rather than PC or Xbox.
I heard too that perhaps they may have just tweeted that they're now not going to include the Battlefield 3 PlayStation 3 version, so there was no actually huge big announcement. It was just sort of tweeted by somebody. That's what I heard.
I saw. I'm reading a tweet. I guess this came from somewhere in EA. It said in lieu of 1943 being available on disc for PlayStation 3 customers, EA has made all Battlefield 3 expansions available early to PS3 customers. So they're trying something, but
yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, that's people could have thought, hey, I'd like to get a copy of 1943. We'll go and buy. I haven't got a PS3, but I've heard it's pretty good. I'll get a PS3 for it. Or, perhaps people specifically bought the PlayStation 3 version on top of another format because they wanted a copy of 1943.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some fairly disgruntled PS3 users out there, I would say.
And saying that, saying that it's cheap as chips on Xbox. It's about 800 Microsoft points probably these days if you really want to get it and you've got an Xbox.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is though, and I haven't read any sort of lawsuit or any more information about it, but I guess the thing is that people have made a conscious decision to buy a particular format, haven't they? Because they were under the guise that they were getting something else. Everybody likes to get something for free, especially when you're paying prices that you are for games. If you get something free with it as well. Because I noticed that there's quite a few promotions going at the moment that if you buy a PS3 version, you'll get another version of another game with it. Like, if you get Assassin's Creed Revelations which is Ubisoft on PS3, you get a copy of the original Assassin's Creed with that.
Ah, okay.
So there seems to be a really big push with the PS3 at the moment to sort of include, original copies or other copies of a game. A new release. All right,
before we let you go, Gerard, I just want to know, are you playing Skyrim? I hear lots about this game called Skyrim.
I haven't been playing Skyrim, but I haven't been playing Skyrim because I had another guy that does reviews for me who was very keen to get his hands on it. He was a very big Fallout 3 and Elder Scrolls Oblivion fan, so he wanted to see what Skyrim was like, so I relented and said, here you go, chap, you can have Skyrim. But from what I hear, it's touted as the game of the year by many people.
Yeah. I hear that it's kind of like that's the single-player World of Warcraft.
Yes, I've heard many stories of people who have neglected many things playing Skyrim. many things.
Neglected the real world.
And I guess the fact too is that because it's a single-player only, there's no multiplayer, so it does show that there's actually strength in the single-player campaign still. If that people are willing to invest countless hours, and like my reviewer who has reviewed around in the paper today, giving it a 5 out of 5, saying that he hasn't watched any TV for a week, and he didn't just keep playing it because he had to. He actually kept on playing it because he just wanted to. He just wanted to keep getting involved in the world. So yeah, I'm hoping to get a look at it, prize it out of his hands when he's done with it. So it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, it sounds very impressive.
And me personally, I'm still muddling through Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition. I'm finding the last couple of levels very challenging indeed. Very challenging. Way more challenging than any other Halo game. So.
Yeah, but I guess that harks back to how it was in the old days, wasn't it? It's 10 years old, and it's sort of, maybe we've got a wee bit softer.
I think maybe so. Yeah.
Intervening years with sort of, linearity in games and combat AI and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, yes, it's very impressive. I'm liking that a lot.
All right, well, continue the conversation with Gerard on Twitter, twitter.com/GameJunkieNZ. Also, the Game Junkie 2.0 blog. Do a research for that, you'll find it. And there's also the blog up at stuff.co.nz in the technology section. See you next week.
See you.